The Agricultural Industrial Revolution. The Industrial Revolution, which took place from the 18th to the 19th centuries, was a period during which predominantly agrarian rural societies in Europe and America became industrial and urban. Prior to the Industrial Revolution, which began in Britain in the late 1700s, manufacturing was often done in people's homes using hand tools or basic machines. Industrialization marked a shift to powered, special-purpose machinery, factories, and mass production. The development of the steam engine saw improved systems of transportation, communication, and banking. Before the advent of the steam engine, raw materials and finished goods were hauled and distributed with horse-drawn wagons and by boats along canals and rivers. In the early 1800s, American Robert Fulton built the first commercially successful steamboat, and by the mid-19th century, steamships were carrying freight across the Atlantic. Railways changed the world dramatically because before them, travel was powered by either humans or animals, and it took a lot longer to get to your destination. In the early 18th century, Englishman Abraham Darby discovered a cheaper, easier method to produce cast iron using a coke-fueled furnace. Both iron and steel became essential materials used to make everything from appliances, tools, and machines to ships, buildings, and infrastructure. In the 1850s, British engineer Henry Bessemer developed the first inexpensive process for mass-producing steel. Communication became easier during the Industrial Revolution with inventions such as the telegraph. It was a message sent by an electrical telegraph operator using Morse code. The Enclosure Acts were a series of united acts of Parliament which enclosed open fields and common land in the country, creating legal property rights to land that was previously considered common. More productive ways of farming were developed, such as the just-row tool machine. It permitted cultivation between rows, increases the amount of food produced per acre. The textile industry, in particular, was transformed by industrialization. One of the innovations was the hand loom weaver, which caused wages to plummet after textile weaving entered the factories. The Industrial Revolution also resulted in often grim employment and living conditions for the poor and working classes. The working conditions in factories were not pleasant. They usually worked 12 to 14 hours a day, and they didn't earn much money. The working conditions in mines weren't pleasant. Trappers were as young as 4 years old and sat all day long in the dark. They were paid very little, and sometimes they were not even paid at all. Some conditions of cities that made life unpleasant for the city dwellers is there is terrible pollution and there weren't enough houses for everyone to live in. During the Industrial Revolutions, workers joined trade unions to protect and advance the interest of its members in the workplace. In 1799 and 1800, the British Parliament passed the Combination Acts, which made it illegal for workers to unionize or combine as a group to ask for better working conditions. The Green Revolution is a large increase in crop production in developing countries achieved by the use of fertilizers, pesticides, and high-yield crop varieties. They use GE and GMO seeds or crops. The UK passed a law in 1721 to ban printed cotton to restrict the growth of cotton and protect the wool industry. In 1799, Robert Owen bought the only 4 cotton mills in a small town in Scotland called New Lanark. The Great Stink occurred in London because the hot weather made the smell of untreated human waste and industrial effluent that was present on the bank of the Thames River. At first, members of Parliament tried to stay at course and continue their sessions without agreeing to any drastic plans of reform to clean up the waste. Industrialization spread from Britain to other European countries including Belgium, France, Germany, and the US. By the early 20th century, the US had become the world's leading industrial nation.
The end.